Hello, this is Arcades, and welcome to a bit of a discussion video here on Stormworks Build and Rescue, and I thought I would cover a bit of a question that might be on any new player's mind, or potentially anybody looking at the game. So, yeah. So the question is, should you buy Stormworks Build and Rescue in this stage as of this video? Yeah, so I kind of want to talk about that, because I'm sure there's a number of people who see things, see creations, see videos about the game, wonder what it is, see it on sale, and they're just wondering, what the hell is this game? And, yeah, I'm going to try to answer it to the best of my knowledge, and hopefully give you something, a nice round experience of what this game is like, and what to expect. So, hope you enjoy what you watch. Hope you like what you see. If you do, remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment, tell me what you think, and, yeah. Let's talk about this. Okay. So, first of all, what is Stormworks? Well, as when I'm on my streams, I'll have people come in and ask, and I tell them it is a sandbox physics game based around vehicle building. And you have different physics systems in this game that happen all consecutively at the same time that can cause a lot of issues. And I always like to address to people that while the game does a lot of the stuff, and a lot of people will say, it's not accurate and all that, they're not wrong. But the thing is, I always like to explain to people, this is a sandbox game. It's like going to the beach with the tools to make a sandcastle, and everything is made out of sand. So everything plays by the rules of sand. If you build a building out of sand, it's going to act like sand. And even though you can apply the principles of real life to it, does not necessarily mean that it's going to necessarily act like it should in real life. But most of the systems here work to a certain degree to reality that you can at least get the feel of what's going on. So, now, there are other games that are better than Stormworks in terms of any individual system. What its Stormworks' greatest strength is its amalgamation of so many different physics together to create a complete package. For example, you've got games like Kerbal Space Program. That game is all about space, but you start doing things that are outside of space travel, things get a little weird. I mean, to be fair, they get a little weird. Then you have, Mud Runner, or Snow Runner. I haven't played the game, but I know of it. Again, you start getting into things where you're just doing about the mud and such, and all that. It's a great game, but once you start pushing those limits beyond what would be considered, you're going to find the thing starts to fail because it can't handle that. Now, this is, like I said, this is where Stormworks shines, is that when you start pushing those envelopes, you still get the same problems, but you can actually still make there is a reasonable amount of all these systems and physics systems together to give you a nice playable playground. So you can fly, you can go underwater, you can, the basics is originally was a boat. All this stuff is there. And it all works. Granted, when you really start pushing any physics engine to the edge, that's when you start to notice the cracks. It's just that you have actually you have a good combination of multiple types of systems that the game actually can exist within as it does. Now, because it is a jack of all trade, it's a master of none. And that's the big key point here. Now, sometimes you want the master, you go to that one. But if you just want to play around, like I said, be able to do anything you want, this is actually a fairly good choice for it. Now, that's just for the environment of play. Now, as I said, the game is based around vehicular building. The central theme of the game on the base model is rescue. You know, you're going out, there'll be missions that will pop up, and you can go and rescue people, or whatever missions pop up. You know, say, building fire like there, and they're procedurally generated. The devs do a decent, okay job of giving us some basic procedural missions. In my opinion, they lean a little too much on the users to create this, which is another aspect of this game that can be a plus and a minus, depending on it. But for the most part, speaking of just the default setup, that they give you randomly generated missions that come up every, regular intervals, say once a game day. And you go out and you perform the mission. They stay out there for a time, and they're simple and straightforward enough. And you use vehicles you create in your workshop to perform said missions. Now, they give you various parts for your creation and such, and you can create whole different setups with this. Now, you can see right now, I'm on one of my favorite creations. This is a personal creation, and you can give it a whole different set of things because, like I bet you didn't realize, there's an elevator right here. I had built to lift things up into that area as a cage. We have a crane on here. We even have a back anchor / tow point that can move up and down. We got a cabinet with different objects here. Even to the point, you may have not noticed, this even has a helicopter pad on it. That, as you can see, as it slowly activates, comes into place. Now, the thing is that, all these options come at a cost because they require the parts needed activated. This is another part where this game really does shine, is it gives you a lot of problem solving. Now, you don't have to do anything as extensive or crazy as this boat is. I mean, I'll admit, this thing's overkill, and in the terms of the game's engine, it's overkill. But, it's fully decked out for different types of equipment, for different types of missions. And that's where, as I said, the problem solving is. You can create all this stuff yourself, but it does take time to learn said mechanics and stuff to do. But the creativity, the option to be this creative is there, to be this free. And it's one of my favorite things is that the fact is that people can make different creations to do different tasks, and they can even theme them. And there's not a problem with that. You can actually have people that are doing these missions and they're using, vehicles from the Star Wars world or Star Trek or Halo, or even something back from, or ships from like the 1910s or World War II, or hell, just anything just from their own imagination or different pop culture items like Warhammer 40K. It's all there. Like, people can make it, and they're actually decent facsimiles of the things that they're trying to represent because they just look like it. They can be used. Now, as you notice, the things I mentioned were mainly things that were like, major pop culture stuff. And you can make completely original stuff. There was one creator that was actually pretty popular because he was putting creations out that were based on experimental ships he saw in his area. At least that's how I understood it. And yeah, so these different creations that you can make to solve said problem can be, like I said, as simple as making a little life raft or a little boat that goes out and does a mission, or something as complex as, say, the ship I'm walking around on. It can be whatever you want it to be to get the job done, and the game gives you tools and the facsimile of these systems and physics systems that it feels legitimate. And I personally have over 6,000 hours into this game. I wouldn't have done it if I didn't enjoy it to any degree. I mean, I am one of those people. If I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't put it in. Now, Now, if I had to say, if there's anything that really the game has a hard time of, is it has a very, very sharp learning curve. Like, so, and I'm talking in terms of building. Like, when you go to build a vehicle, like, the learning curve of this game to understand what makes a vehicle float, like, say, in the water and such, like this does, or fly in the air, or drive on the ground, like, there is not a lot of in-game tutorial to get you to understand it. It is actually necessary for you to find the community and be a part of it to find out what's going on. Yeah, you can experiment and all that and figure out what you want, but certain hidden details become hard to find unless you actually go to talk to other community members. You could eventually figure them out yourself, because that's one of the fun things about this game, is that they do have these physics and these calculations you can do to create all these different effects and systems. But the thing is that the game only gives you rough descriptions on how to use parts, and then says you're on your own. The game does not hold your hand to any degree when it comes to building your creations, or even necessarily doing the missions. It just sets, basic, similar targets so you can do it over and over again. Because even like, as you can see in the background, we have this, we got the island chain of biome right over there. Like, you have missions that pop up that have a chance of a volcano exploding around them. It's small, but it can happen. And just learning how to do all this stuff when you're putting together the logic to control different parts and such will take practice. A lot of practice. Because, like, even some of my first creations that I would use to solve missions and such, they were, well, let's just say they definitely looked like beginners. But the one really good thing is, as you learn this stuff, as you learn how to build the creations, the level of satisfaction you get from creating something that has such a, when you actually do complete something, when you finally put your heart into making it, just gives you the greatest amount of satisfaction. It just feels good. And what's funny is this, you're in school and such, you're always like, why I'll never use these skills I learn here. You'll say that in math class and all that, but guess what? Those skills can be applied to this game. From small engineering projects to larger engineering projects. I mean, we've had people in this game make creations, everything from, like I said, a Halo ship to something as a one-to-one replica of the Titanic. Now, it's not perfect. It was not a perfect recreation, but size, length, and overall mass, it would be no better than, it's about the same difference as what you would get when you pick up a model kit of the Titanic, just in a one-to-one scale in this game. And these are things you can accomplish. And, as long as you can accept, some of the limitations of the game and what you're capable of using, yeah, I would wholly recommend picking up the game. Understanding that you're going to need to talk to other people to learn the game, to learn the different things. And that is just from the vehicle creation standpoint. Now, say if you want to actually, you don't want to create things, you just want to play the game. You can actually, there is a workshop where people can upload stuff and you can grab stuff off there and actually play with them. The thing with that is you got to learn how to be, there is no standard control scheme between vehicles. You can't ask like a person like, how do you do this with a controller? It's not going to work because each vehicle is set up per person who creates the creation. So a lot of the time is that it helps develop problem solving skills because your first problem is learning how to control a vehicle. going to a thing and looking at the directions. Even people who create those have to create the directions for you to use, or take the time to list things out. Because, like, even though I said, like, this creation here is my own personal one, like, I even have it listed out on different buttons and such, I had to write all that out. Like, or I had to find a creation on the workshop that would allow me to do stuff. Like, you know, like, I'm not as good with coding, so I couldn't make that Lewis screen there. Or this, but I was good enough, I could edit this one to create this. And as you can see, I've got all these listed. So they have different things. And even if you look at the driver's seat square that's off to the left, bottom left of the screen, that I wrote up. I had to write that up so I can remember the controls every time I get in this boat. If it's been a while, I can say, oh, that's what that does. That's what that button does. So, at minimum, you know, just to use creations, you got to have decent problem-solving skills, because you got to figure out how to operate different things by looking and observing and reading. So, if you or say you're trying to buy it for somebody and you're trying to figure out if it's good for them, keep that in mind, is that this game can be definitely very fun for a multiplayer or even single-player aspect from just the physics alone and such, being able to use different people's creations. But it can get very frustrating for somebody who wants consistency or is not mature enough to understand the need of being able to develop the skills to start working with creations from the workshop or building their own. And there are certain things that are consistent, and then there's certain things that are definitely not. Like, crane systems generally tend to be inconsistent between different creations. There are certain things that are, but for the most part, each individual system is inconsistent. Bolt hulls can be consistent, but the individual controls for each feature can be different. Because, I mean, like, a folding helipad on this boat is not a standard thing. I know, even though some boats do have helipads, they're generally pretty static. Yeah, and learning to accept that some things just aren't going to come easy without some work is something definitely necessary. So, like I said, if you can handle failure, as long as it leads to you learning and being able to complete stuff, then, or whoever you're buying it for, then yeah, wholly get it. Now, if you're just coming in here and expecting, you've seen videos done by content creators about different creations from Stormworks and creating these, cringeworthy videos of different silliness and expecting to be able to do that right away on your own? No, because those people had to set up these situations, and then on top of that, the people who created the creations had to create it. It wasn't just quick and done. So, yeah. Overall, just make sure if you're looking into this game to purchase for somebody else or to get for yourself, be prepared to know what you're getting into. The game is a technical game. It does try to simulate to the best of its degree certain mechanics and real life, mechanisms and such, but it takes allowances for the game's capability of what it can handle in the code. So, as I called it before, it was a jack of all trades, and I still stand by that. And you're playing with a sandcastle. God, that sounds weird. Anyways, so yeah, should you buy it? Like I said, if you love engineering, if you like having fun with user creations, or, you just like, or you want to try the theme of search and rescue, or a combination of all three. The game is there. You can express your technical ability, you can have fun just playing with stuff, and give you a chance to learn things and put to practical use things you didn't think you would. So, and I have personally used in this game everything from basic addition and subtraction to all the way to trig for certain systems. like, you know, a radar system using trigger gun there. And yeah, so problem solving. If they can handle being easily frustrated, or if they are easily frustrated, it would be a hard to recommend it to them until they're able to deal with frustration easily. And yeah, okay. So I guess in the end, what I'm trying to say is that, you know, after personally like 6,000 hours of this game, there definitely I've seen the cracks of what this game has and what it can and can't do. And I've come across, you know, a number of people from while I was streaming who have certain expectations of the game that end up maybe expecting too much from it, and others who don't expect enough. And it's hard to just tell somebody, should I buy this game? Because this is definitely one where you need to know, the person needs to know themselves before they get into it, and all I can show you is what you can and can't do, and how you can deal with it. And say, hey, do you like doing this? Do you like doing that? But again, all that's from myself. So, should you buy it? If you like engineering, if you like a challenge, if you like just and playing with other users' creations, even if they're a little bugged, then yeah, go for it. But if you're expecting to have your hand held, somebody tell you how to put two things together, and no. I definitely a no if you have a lot of frustration or can be easily frustrated. Be like, just go ahead and step off to the next one, because there's a lot of things you can do that does not require technical, but at some point the technical part will have to come in and you will have to deal with it, and that's where it comes to an individual basis of whether it's worth the effort or not. So all right, so I'm Arcades, and yeah, I hope you had a good time. Hope you enjoyed the watch. If you did, you know the deal, you know the spiel. This is Arcades, signing out. Have yourself a good day. Whee!